Welcome to the League Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Youman. Joining me on this episode is a pitcher, our very first pitcher to join us on this podcast. Longtime friend of mine from our LSU days. Continued a friendship throughout that time, through our pro days, and pitching with the Atlanta Braves, myself pitching with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Another Texan coming to us from the Houston metro area. We have Mr. Trey Hodges joining us. T. Hodge, man, what's going on?
What's up, Shane? I appreciate you having me.
Man, I appreciate you hopping on, taking a little time, man. I know you're down there in Lafayette, Louisiana, staying busy, not only with work, but with the family. These quarantine times got us doing some things a little bit different, spending a little bit more time with the kids, which is cool. So, speak on that, man. How's that been going now that you've been at home spending that extra time with the kids?
Yeah, it's actually been it's been really neat. I kind of got very lucky. We had made plans to install a pool, and the pool got finished right at the quarantine. So then I'm stuck at home with two kids and a freshly installed pool. And in my type of or line of work, my work, obviously was impacted by everything. And my wife is in marketing, and she was as if nothing had happened, So basically, she locked herself in a room and just continued working as normal. And for me, it allowed me, like you talked about, it allowed me to, not that I don't spend a lot of time. I mean, look, trust me, I spend a lot of time with my kids. I do a lot more than a lot of people do. But it allowed me for relatively short period of time just to be a dad, kind of almost like a weekend set up for a few months.
Yeah, that's cool, man. What you got? Two? You got two kids, right?
I got two boys.
Yeah,
8-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Cool. So I know they keep you on your toes, keeping you young, staying in shape. Other than that, man, spending that extra time at home, wifey locking herself in the room to stay away from the fellas. That's what
I don't blame her.
Work. Dealing with this pandemic, and also, man, and I'm not sure if you have, being down there in South Louisiana, the other issues, the social issues that we've been going through. Have your sons or you and your wife sat down and spoke to them about some of the things that's been happening in our world, or have they asked questions about some of the things that we're seeing on TV when it comes to these social issues?
Yeah, our kids are young. My oldest is about to turn 8. And my other one is just turning 5. So that's a great question. I know my older son, my 8-year-old, he started to kind of notice things and see things just in general. I'm not even talking about, we really try to keep them away from a lot of the chaos. In my opinion, they're a little too young to maybe understand the complexities of all these circumstances and situations. But certainly, as they continue to grow and become more aware and become more mature, these conversations are going to happen. I know the other day, my son, just being an innocent young boy, he's very well behaved and a good kid, and we do a good job of raising him, I think. But, as a parent, you've got to kind of, from time to time, make them aware that, not everyone is the same, meaning some people are certainly in more fortunate situations and some people aren't, and we need to try to do a good job of treating each person equally.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And, kids, even though they're young, they're curious, they're smart, they're going to ask questions from time to time. So, I had to put that out there just to kind of see how different families are handling things during these times. Everybody's different based on the age of your kid, where you live, so on and so forth. So to start introducing those things is definitely huge, because we are moving forward and there's some things that we have to deal with. So definitely appreciate you sharing that with me, man. And we're gonna jump into Trey Hodges. We're gonna jump into that journey that you took to make it to the major leagues, man, coming from the Houston metro area. When did it all start? And I know you have an older brother that played in the big leagues as well, so you had that blueprint right in front of you as you were growing up. But when did it all start for you? When did you start with the game of baseball?
Yeah, so I mean, just like any other kid, started playing t-ball, and I remember, when I was in t-ball, wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, right? yeah. But that's old school. Hey, Sharn, that's old school. These kids nowadays, they've got like matching pants and home and away unis and 2 bats. And I remember. I'd imagine you grew up similar to me. I remember going to, the sporting goods store and thinking, holy cow, this bat's, $50.
Yeah.
And, nowadays, I mean, you can't buy a bat for $50.
Chance.
But yeah, I played Little League baseball just like everyone else. I think in your and I's era, because we're about the same age, travel ball wasn't really prevalent. There were some all-star teams, some travel-type teams around. Select ball was just becoming, I guess, more popular about the time you and I were in high school. I was never, I was always one of the better players in my league, but I was, talk about in high school, or I was never, I guess, viewed in the eyes of others as one of the best players in my area. And so, I try to help other parents and other kids. You and I both do pitching lessons or baseball lessons in general. And I think you and I are great people to give those lessons to, because, I don't think you and I were, people didn't bow down to us. And,
no.
We weren't, exactly. So, I mean, we kind of took the long road, I remember, so being in high school, as a freshman, so I went to a very good high school, 5A high school, well known for baseball. Like you mentioned, my brother was drafted out of high school in the, I want to say the 7th round. And he was actually the number 2 pitcher on his team. The number 1 pitcher was Justin Thompson, a left-hander who pitched in the major leagues and made the all-star team. So we had a pretty good pitching staff. But, so I made JV as a freshman, and I was the starting shortstop. And then my sophomore year, I was the starting shortstop / starting pitcher. And then my junior year, apparently I needed to repeat JV again. So I played JV. Yeah. So apparently, I don't know. We can get more into the guts of it, but so I played JV for a 3rd year.
Oh, wow.
And then I was held off of the summer varsity team going into my senior year. So, and I was the only player drafted on my high school team. So I think my story is a good story for a lot of kids and parents out there that go to show you, if you continue to dream, you continue to work, and obviously you've got to have some of those genetic, advantages where, God has just kind of given us the ability to throw a ball a little better than someone else. And you stay in it long enough, and eventually something good happens.
I'm with you, man. And adversity in politics at its finest when you're talking about how you had to play JV for 3 years back then. I see it now with the bigger schools and more players being on teams, but back then in the mid to late 90s, as a sophomore, you're probably dressing out varsity and getting some time. But for them to hold you back, not only for 3 years at the JV level, but then still not give you the opportunity for the summer varsity team. Some kids would have quit. You didn't quit. But before we hop into that part, you talked about the select world and how it was starting to pretty much come to the forefront in a sense, your latter years, middle school, going into high school. I'm from New Iberia. Your wife, Bree, she's from New Iberia.
Yes.
We didn't see that till probably maybe the early 2000s with the select world because of the small cities that we were in. Being that you were in a big metro area in Houston, more kids and more opportunity for that to happen. But to say that, man, and you stuck with it, what was the one thing that kept you going? Was it your brother, seeing what your brother was able to do and accomplish throughout his high school career? What kept you going, man, and not quit, although they were trying to hold you back?
Well, I do remember, not making the varsity team my junior year. And I think I came home. My parents told me this. I think I came home and said I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And it was more of just a complete frustration of knowing I was good enough. And it was very obvious. It was very evident that there were things being done to me that were not correct. I was not being treated fairly. And my parents just encouraged me to continue on and you know what? It's probably, what's funny about the whole situation is being treated that way. Even though I didn't understand all the angles at the time, being treated that way actually helped me. So I went back to JV as a junior. And in a way, it made me kind of an angry athlete. Yeah. And so I went out and I wanted people to feel my pain. And I think it took my game to a different level, look, to this day, like as you and I are talking, it still angers me. And I share that with every kid I do lessons with, because I don't want those kids to think that, you and I, for example, had some, golden road laid out for us and people got out of our way to allow us, to get where we got. It was through a long, I talk about you all the time. You play you probably had the longest professional career out of our whole LSU, class, athletic, baseball class.
Yeah.
And you're just a guy that just kept at it, man. Every day you just packed your lunch and you went to the park and you just kept going along. And so you kind of asked me that question as well. Like, I just, I loved baseball and I knew I was good at it. I enjoyed competing and I think something like what happened to me kind of inspired me, and inspired me to prove people wrong and to, make them feel what I was feeling.
Yeah, that's crazy, man, just to think about. And obviously we met in college, so I didn't know that backstory per se. I knew you coming in as a pretty good prospect from the JUCO ranks. I didn't know that you went through that adversity and had to deal with those politics in high school. Just think about from that time, and it seems like a long time, but let's just say it was 1994, 95. 7 years later, and we're gonna jump into all of that. But 7 years later, you were a big league pitcher. Shoot, less than that. 5 years later, you were the MVP of the College World Series. You go from sitting in JV, playing on the JV team, to playing for one of the best college programs in the nation, arguably the best at that time. We were the best at LSU at that particular time. So let's dive into that senior year and you going out there and playing. And speak about that season and then what happened after that season going into JUCO. Okay.
Well, I'll start with the JUCO because I think it does a good job of kind of laying out the whole, I guess, the journey.
Yeah.
So my brother was drafted out of high school, and I saw him physically develop and improve 2 years into professional baseball. And so I thought to myself, hey, I didn't want to go to a 4-year school right out of high school and be forced into waiting till my junior year to be drafted. So, and on top of it, I didn't grow up rich. We weren't able just to shell out $50,000 to go to school. So my parents would have made something work, but it wasn't flowing out of the trees. And on top of it, JUCO just felt like the best option. It was going to allow me to play. It was going to allow me to develop. It was going to allow me the opportunity to be drafted my freshman and sophomore year. and make a business decision each year. And after 2 years of going to junior college, I had an opportunity to play at LSU, Miami, and Alabama. So after
all Power 5 schools 3 years later from being on 3 years after being on JV.
and they were all all three of those, you had a chance to win a championship. So out of high school, my only offers were really, I had some football offers because I played quarterback as well, but they were small, junior college, maybe some small 4-year schools.
And let's be honest, Trey, you were pretty skinny.
No, exactly. I get it. Business decision I was not going to play football. No, trust me. I'm aware of that, Shane. I'm still skinny. But out of high school, I've got 50% scholarships to Texas and A&M, which was a decent offer for a high school kid. But after 2 years of junior college, I'd improved immensely. And it was evident by LSU and Alabama and Miami offering me. And the Texas schools only thought I was 10% better than I was at high school, which I was like, no, I'm a lot better, compared to what I was 2 years ago. And so obviously for me, I made it, I had an offer on the table with the Padres, but I said, you know what, to pass up the opportunity to go to LSU, get an education, to win a championship, which at that point was my highest priority. I was like, well, you're gonna have to buy me away from that opportunity. Yeah. and it was obviously it paid off. You and I were able to win a championship my senior year. I think it was your junior year.
My junior year. I was actually a redshirt sophomore that year.
Okay, but anyway, but to go to LSU now, I go to LSU. Things are looking really good in the fall. Start the spring, don't feel quite the same, end up having a torn bicep tendon. So I go from being kind of as good as I've ever been in my life, throwing probably, mid 90s to I cannot pick up my arm my junior year. Literally, I cannot pick up my arm. And I rehabbed, come back my senior year, kind of continue to rehab and get back to normal. And dude, I'm going to tell you what, looking back, I couldn't have gotten healthy at a more perfect time. Literally, if I get healthy, and I'm talking, I'm sure you've had surgery. You had Tommy John, right?
I had just all the nerve. I thought I needed it, but we didn't need the TJ. So I just had all the nerve and bone spurs.
But you understand, there's a difference between being, medically healthy and being back to Shane Youman, the top of his game. And so I was healthy. I was pitching in games. I was doing well, but I didn't feel 100%. And I got 100% at the SEC tournament against Alabama. It was a total bloodbath. It was like 15-15.
Yeah, I pitched that game too, I think.
Yeah, everybody that pitched got hit. And for whatever reason, I go out there, I felt great and just dealt. But, man, if I don't get healthy that week, because, right on the backside of that are the regionals.
Yes.
I may not, that one outing, I think, in a way, kind of changed the trajectory of my baseball career. Just very fortunate to have things work out at the right time, at the last second. And as you know, we go on, we play in the regionals and go to Omaha, and I just got hot at the right time, and I was happy to be it. I was happy to finally do something to prove my scholarship after, in a way, kind of being a failure for the first, half of my journey at LSU.
So tell me this, Trey, and we talking about you came in, highly touted from the JUCO ranks, coming over to LSU, passed up a nice chunk of change with the Padres to come to LSU. It still baffles me when I hear stories about guys passing up. But we all have our reasons. You want to win a national championship. Some guys, they make a deal with their parents. Hey, I'm going to go to school. Or you need that maturity. You need to mature more. So instead of going into the pro ranks and being amongst men and having to fend for yourself, let's take the college route. So you come in as advertised, like you said, you're mid-90s guy, dirty slider, nasty changeup. and then boom, you hit that wall, not because the coach is trying to hold you back, but you having health issues with the bicep. So there's more adversity. How did you handle that mentally? And we had a great coach in Skip Bergman who was able to get the best out of all of his players in some way or another. So how did you handle that adversity? Now, you only had to sit because of politics. Now you got to sit because of health concerns or health issues. How were you able to handle that and keep a positive frame of mind while you rehab and get yourself back?
Yeah, there's only one way out. I mean, you're either going to cry about it or you're going to try to climb your way out of the hole. And on top of it, had a great roommate. Cedric Harris was my roommate, and just great teammates. People around that were positive. It was a great atmosphere, as you know. One of the closest teams probably ever. They talk about LSU, right? The LSU football team this year. They talk about how close those guys were, and you saw the result on the field. But also, I think my faith. Just I'm a Christian and just, a lot of praying and believing and I think also a lot of just kind of ignorance, just kind of
not knowing, right?
Just kind of stupidly believing that somehow this repaired bicep tendon was going to be good again and I was going to pitch. And I've heard somebody say before, it's youth is a hard thing to replace. I mean, it's when you're young like that, it seems like you can just recover from a lot of things, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, things of that nature.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I can speak on my injury. It affected me mentally because I had never had to shut down before. And now I have to. It affected my grades in a way, but like you said, being around good teammates, good guys, no matter if you was on the field or not, you were always included. So I think that helped, just being able to joke around and be around the fellas. And although you're not stepping on that mound to pitch and contribute to the team, you're still part of that team. They didn't cast you away as an outcast. So everybody stayed close-knit. And as you spoke on the 2000 team, being together and doing so many things, whether it was skipping class on Mondays to go to University Commons and chill out by the pool and stuff like that. We always did stuff together, man. It was a family atmosphere. It was a brotherhood. So I know that helped you overcome that a lot quicker than you possibly thought. And then just being young, not knowing any better and saying, you know what, I'm going to be back out there to do my thing. So we fast forward and obviously we talked about the injury and you spoke on, prepping for that senior year, coming back and getting hot at the right time. I think we all as a team got hot at the right time because you mentioned the SEC tournament. Yeah. And if you look back at it, I know I didn't think about it. Maybe it clicked in your mind, but we didn't lose a game. We didn't lose a game from the start of the SEC tournament. We swept through the postseason. What did you notice anything like that happening? Let's just say maybe after the regional, going into the super regional. Did you notice that we were kind of running the table, or is this something that came to mind after the fact that we did it?
I didn't. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big stat person, so I don't analyze the numbers on it, as I'm in them. But I do remember at the time, you're right. I mean, we were hot, and in fact, when we won the championship game in the SEC tournament, I remember we just walked out to the mound and shook hands like it was another day.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? We had a mature group of guys. We had a very talented team. We were very focused. We had guys that had earned it. I mean, they for example, myself, I mean, I had been through an injury that literally I couldn't lift my arm. And now I'm pitching again. I mean, the belief that I had in myself and my teammates was invincible. I mean, we had, we kind of underachieved as a team the year before.
Big time.
And so I think with that and our coaching staff and the maturity, the leadership, I mean, Blair Barbier, you talk about a team captain. Yeah. It doesn't get any better, And then, when you put all those pieces together, you build something that literally is indestructible. And, we had a lot of talent. I said that before, but I mean, you got some talent, but we also had a lot of belief and we earned it. I know Skip talked about, substance. Yeah. We had a lot of substance. There was a lot of substance. And so, looking back after it was all said and done, I realized, holy cow, we just bulldozed through major league pitcher after major league pitcher and
first round after first round.
Unbelievable. So, it was just a team. I think in a way, it was meant to happen. We had earned it. It was our time. And thankfully it happened, because otherwise, my bet, my bet, for a ring. Looking back, I'm like, I could have bought a bunch of rings for the money they were going to give me. Sure. But you know what? But also the friendships, the experiences, a college degree. Those things are just they're irreplaceable. That you can't buy those. There are certain things that money can't buy, and the things that I gathered from LSU are those things, and irreplaceable.
Sure, I'm with you. Look, we here sitting on the League Talk podcast 20 plus years later, talking about those times and those memories. And man, and at that postseason, although they came to the box, UCLA was supposed to beat us. We swept them in 2 games against their 2 best arms. They just couldn't handle that Louisiana heat, number one, and those fans in the box. Oh. You can't forget about the LSU fans, man, at Alex Box Stadium back then. They couldn't handle those 2 elements. Plus, we were hitting on all cylinders. I don't think we would be denied. Shout out Blair Barbier, probably one of the best guys I played with from a leadership standpoint. He did a lot. He was real effective in how he led us, and he did it by example and by motivation, by making sure we stayed in line. And we can't forget about the turtle shell, bro. I think the turtle shell got us over that hump. Turtle Time was putting us through that conditioning when we got back got back to school after the Christmas holidays. He did a great job with getting us prepared for that season from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. When you're talking about persevering and making it through those days early in the morning at the LSU indoor football facility, we renamed it as the Turtle Shell because he used to kick our butts in there, man. But all those things are happening, Trey. And before we head to Omaha, you get drafted in the 17th round by the Braves. Was it the 17th round?
That's correct.
We going into Omaha, you get drafted. Was something like, okay, man, I got drafted. Okay, I have no choice but to sign. I can't come back. Let me continue to keep my focus on this team. We got something good going, so we can bring that ring back home to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Talk about that call from the Braves on draft day, and then your focus that you continue to have going into Omaha.
Yeah, just obviously relieved. I was drafted out of high school, freshman, sophomore year, and not my junior year because I had a torn arm. Yeah. And then to be a senior and to have an opportunity, to go play professional baseball, just relieved, just excited about the opportunity. I understood, my brother being drafted before me, I understood how the game was going to play, and that I had no leverage. And basically they were going to give me a tic tac and tell me to show up.
Yeah, give you gas money too, huh?
Here's a funny story. Here's some funny stories. So my dad is not my dad was not a, didn't get into a lot of things, just kind of stay out of the way, pretty quiet, to himself. But anyway, so the Braves had called him and said, "Hey, we're gonna sign your son and we're gonna give him $1,000." Which, you and I know that's nothing. That's like they might as well have just said, "We're going to give you nothing." And so my dad literally said something to the effect of, if you're not embarrassed to do that, go ahead, and hung up on him.
Hey, that takes some cojones to say right there.
But hey, my dad, well, look, the reality is you and I both know, look, I get it. They had all the leverage, but that they could have done a little better than 1,000.
1,000, of course.
And anyway, a few days later, the Braves called me back and said, "Hey, we're going to give you 5,000." So I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I mean, look, I get it. I have no leverage. I'm going to sign. I'm going to show up. I don't care what you get me.
Yeah.
But no, it was an exciting moment. I was excited just to have the opportunity to try that journey. And again, just being kind of young and dumb and just kind of going along with it. All we knew was baseball. I mean, right? I mean, and if you had to fall back on some real job and your degree, then you would just figure that out next.
Or you go to pharmaceuticals like so many LSU players did back then.
Exactly, the pipeline.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. The $1,000 in your bag, kind of shooting them down, saying if you're not embarrassed to make that offer,
yeah, go ahead
and letting it happen, and then you multiply that times 5 as a senior coming out of LSU. Man, before we jump into Omaha, man, what you got going on behind you? I see a mask, I see a hat, I see a cutoff shirt.
So this is me. I'm going to show this to you. All right, hold on. All right. You're gonna love this, Shane.
Dude, you always doing something, man. And you got the cutoff jean shorts too.
And the mask.
I see.
Raging Cajun.
You got the Raging Cajuns visor though.
Aviators. Shirt that says "Big Mistake." It's a married couple.
I see that. And you got the belt buckle. You got the Jordan, son. Hey, sun's free, man. The sun is free.
I know. So a few years ago, we had a party. Yeah. And I dressed up like a Florida Gator fan, apparently. And so I'm 42 now, but 2 years ago, my wife threw a surprise 40th birthday party for me and made that cutout. Yeah. And then she brought it up to the office to try to embarrass me, which I was looking for it the next day. I was going to bring it to the office. Yeah. And so I just keep it in my office now. So
that's classic. That's classic.
It's awesome.
I had to find. I figured it was you. I had to find out what that was.
Oh yeah.
I thought you had got it. I thought you had got it for the show. You know what I mean?
No, that just is normal daily things in my office.
Sure. Right? If you didn't bring that to the table at LSU pretty much embedded stuff like that in you once you stepped on campus with the group of guys that we had and the characters that we had on that team. So, man, we're gonna get back on track. We're in Omaha now. You've been drafted in the 17th round. You said you started to find your groove in the SEC tournament. You're pitching well. You find yourself in that long relief role. Myself and Will and Guidry were the guys that were used at the tail end of the game, whether it be me situational type thing, and Will and Guidry closing the door in the 9th inning. So that mindset going into Omaha now, obviously that was your goal coming into LSU to make it to Omaha and win a national championship. We stepped foot on Rosenblatt opening ceremonies. How did you take all of that in going into the College World Series? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah. And you know what I'm about to say, because, so Skip was a big believer in visualization, right? Believe it. You got to see it. You got to believe it. And so we're at opening ceremonies in Rosenblatt, and I'm sitting in the stands next to Jeremy Whitten, and it hit me that I had a deja vu moment. And I looked over at Jeremy and said, look, man, I've been here before. Like, I had a vision about being in this seat sitting next to you. So, it's amazing the power of some of the things that Skip taught us. But no, to be there, I mean, you've achieved the ultimate goal, right? I mean, the chance to win a championship. You're one of the best 8 teams in America that year. And to finally be there, I know the old Rosenblatt, wasn't maybe the most aesthetically pleasing stadium, but but the just the history of it, the aura that you could feel, and then on top of it, when you pile in about 20,000 LSU fans, the sound it makes. So it made my journey worthwhile, at that point, to finally be there and have an opportunity. And like you said, with us being as hot as we were and as talented as we were, I almost like didn't even think like, well, I hope we win these games. It was just like, hey, we're here, we're meant to win. Let's just, let's do what we're meant to do.
Oh yeah, I think that was our mindset. And you talk about the fans not only traveling from Baton Rouge, but we had fans from Omaha. Fans from Nebraska were tailgating out there with T-shirts. I don't know if it said Nebraska or Cornhuskers for LSU or whatever. Big Jim, rest in peace, Big Jim, the bus driver who at the time we heard he canceled a trip he was supposed to take out of the state to drive us to and from the hotel to the stadium. So having things like that put into place and playing a certain song every time we jumped on the bus, just getting that mindset going and knowing what the guys like and what was going to help us prepare. I think the fans, all of us that rode that bus, coaches, even Big Jim, we knew we would win it, but everybody, the media, they were counting us out. They didn't think we were strong enough because we were facing the Mark Pryors, the Bo Hales, the two guys from Justin Wayne and Jason Young from Stanford. I forget the pitcher that pitched at Florida State. That was a big-time prospect. Everybody was counting us out, but, we had that chemistry, like you mentioned, and we had a damn good coaching staff led by Skip Bertman, who had been there. You talk about Jeremy Whitten. He was going for his third ring in baseball. You know what I mean? Barbier's second ring. Rest in peace, Johnny Thibodeau, second ring. Rest in peace, Wally Ponning, who was a freshman phenom. You're talking about Sid Harris, second ring. Blair Barbier, second ring. Cressy. We had a lot of guys that have been there before and have won before, so it wasn't no secret to them when I say Brad Cressy and the rest of these guys. And we had some young bulls and Terry O'Fino, Harp, Ray Wright. I can go on and on and on. Talent, yourself. It was a lot of pieces to that puzzle that fit really well, and we were able to go out there and do our thing. So you were hot. Like you said, you were hot. We go into their opening ceremonies. You find yourself pitching in these crucial situations and succeeding. Were you surprised, man, when you were named the most outstanding player of the College World Series?
I'm still surprised. One of the things I learned, and again, going back, you and I work with young kids and teaching and helping. And one of the things I learned about myself, I think, in that journey was I perform better when I feel like other people are counting on me. And so coming out of the bullpen, knowing that my teammates need me and are relying on me, for whatever reason, elevates me to another level. It makes me better than I'm supposed to be for whatever reason. And I thrive on it. I love it. And, thankfully pitched well. What's funny is that Stanford game, it's been replayed a few times when we watched it. I remember going into that game, I'd closed out Florida State, and then I came in against USC when Ben Saxon's pitching the game of his life.
Yeah, shout out Ben. Tommy Jane, he said he had Tommy Jane's surgery. He wasn't throwing hard.
And also he said that I can't remember, but he said the fancy Greek words when you graduate top of your class. He said, well, he didn't graduate that. He graduated, thank you, Lordy. But no, Ben Saxon literally. So that was my road roommate, and Ben's having literally the outing of his life. I mean, not that he wasn't good, but that day he was throwing as hard as he'd ever thrown. He was just pinpoint execution like a surgeon, and totally dominating USC, which was a really good team.
Yeah, they were.
And gets a blister on his finger, and then I got to come in out of the bullpen, and thankfully was able to finish it off. But going into that Stanford game, I knew I was probably going to pitch. My arm is, I'm hanging. But, and thankfully watching that game, so I do remember, getting out there and while I pitched pretty decently out of the chute, I needed to get my feet underneath me, and I needed a little bit of momentum, and I was able to get it. And once I got the momentum, it was over. It didn't matter that I had nothing in the tank. It was just going to happen.
Yeah.
But no, I remember Brad Hopp had an unbelievable series. Brad Hopp, I mean, he hit a ball off Mark Pryor that's still circulating. That thing, unbelievable. He hit it so hard. Oh, I mean, and then he hit another one, later in the game, some other poor guy came out to the mound that just wanted, just was happy to be on the mound, and Mark, and Hopp sends another one into outer space. So, Hopp had an unbelievable series. In fact, I think I might have mentioned to him or someone else that, man, if you remember, Hopp, I think, led the nation in doubles that year.
Yes, I remember.
And if he in the series, he probably hit 2 or 3 doubles. And if he would have elevated just one of those, he would have probably been the MVP. Just he had such an unbelievable series. So, no, look, I was very obviously it's a great honor. But obviously you don't win that unless the team wins.
Of course.
And like the Stanford game, I make a pitch in that first inning. Guy hooks it down the line. Blair Barbie lays out, gets up, dusts a 5-gallon bucket of dust off of him and throws it to first for an out. And Brad Hopp, stretches and scoops it. We can go on and on. Ray Wright robbing a home run 3 foot over the fence. Jeremy Whitten hitting a bomb with 2 strikes against a Major League Baseball pitcher.
On a breaking ball pitch that he doesn't handle well.
Mike Fontenot, a freshman, and I said this, and people think it's a joke, but this is serious. Mike Fontenot taking a walk in the 9th inning of the championship game against a Major League pitcher. That's a huge at bat. Huge. He's a freshman.
Exactly, and it's huge in the sense that he has 17 homers as a freshman, so he's looking to hunt.
No, yeah, and he's a freshman, and the dude was in high school the year before. Now he's on national TV. So, no, we can go on and on and on about this. But, no, at the end of the day, hey, whatever it took for us to win a championship I was happy with. I don't care who was given what.
Of course, I think we all fell in that same category. The fact that you visualize yourself, and Skip used a lot of analogies. You're talking about how you were hanging and things like that. One of the things I always remember, and I use it, is AVC, analyze, visualize, concentrate. That's one of the biggest things I've learned from Skip. It was always up in our bullpen when we threw the bullpens. We could see that behind the catcher. Analyze, visualize, concentrate. You had to do that. You had to AVC in that situation because you had been thrown in 2 games, warmed up in another 2 games or whatever it was, and then you still pitched in the national championship game. And it was a bit cooler on that day than it had been all week. So imagine, pitching as much as you did and having to strap it up again and go out there and get some important outs for us to bring it home. So you get that award. And like you said, Hopp, he had a stupid series. He easily could have won the MVP, but you're riding that high. We win a national championship. You had been drafted. You're most outstanding player. That's the icing on the cake. Now you head to pro ball. Let's talk about that short journey in the minor leagues, because you had a real short journey in the minor leagues. It was maybe less than 2 years or a little bit more than 2 years. You became a big league player. So you go from LSU, and I've talked to a couple other guys on the podcast, myself included. We Power 5, we getting the best of the best, even though, like I said to Terrio a few episodes back, Skip didn't give us all our shit that we probably deserved as far as equipment and things of that nature, sweatsuits and all of that. We never got none of that stuff. But we flying planes, we stand in nice hotels, we get the best of the best treatment. Now you're in the minor leagues as a professional, and it's a bit of a downgrade. So speak on that first encounter once you stepped in the minor leagues and saw that it wasn't, glitz and glamour like it was at LSU.
Yeah, you're not in Kansas anymore.
Exactly.
We went. So I left LSU, and just completely exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally, just done. I poured everything I could into that season, and actually got the Braves to give me an extra week just to catch my breath.
Decompress, yeah.
Yeah, and so I ended up going to Jamestown, New York, which is lovely this time of year. and playing the New York Penn League. And you're traveling a bus. You're playing in front of two people. One of the fields we played on was in Pittsfield. Oh, geez, I'm drawing a blank on the state. But anyway, Massachusetts, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which was a field built in like the 1900s. It was actually a football field that the sun set in center field, and they had to delay. At 6 p.m. you had a 20-minute delay because of the sun. I mean, right? I mean, so it was another world. Really, that first year, and thankfully the Braves were really good about understanding my circumstances. That first year, they were like, "Look, we just want you to, just kind of get with the team, throw a little bit. We're not expecting a whole lot. We know you're toast. We're just hoping that somehow, some way, you've got a few more innings in you, and we can see what we got next year." So that was my first experience. Then, next year you go to spring training, and this is what I share with. This is really most of the kids that I work with, on pitching. This is where a lot of that teaching comes from, right here. So I go to spring training the next year, and it's early spring training, which is everybody there signed for like $500,000 or more.
Got your bonus babies up in there, except you, 5,000.
Yeah, everybody else has an Escalade, and I've got like a Chevrolet Malibu, car my parents bought me. But anyway, so I'm playing catch, and kind of fish-eyeing everybody because this is my first experience. And I'm looking at them going, man, I don't throw like them. Everybody here throws different than me. And so I go to my first outing, and like you talked about, we played in the SEC. We played against, some of the greatest programs in college history. We've kind of seen everything, right? So my first outing, I'm facing a guy that's 6'4", 230, and he's swinging a telephone pole. Yeah. I'm going, where's this guy from? Like, if he had a green suit on, I would think he was the Jolly Green Giant. And so my first outing, I get 3 outs, but like 2 of them are hit so hard. Like, I want to go to the guy and say like, hey, you hit that hard enough where I'm going to count that as a hit and you go to second. So I get out of my outing, and our pitching coordinator, Rick Adair, who used to be a major league pitching coach with the Orioles, grabs me and takes me to the side and says, look, you've got to make some mechanical adjustments. The things you did in college or before then, they don't work. Yeah. And so thankfully, he grabbed me, he made those changes. And, you talk about sports when the game slows down, right? You watch Tom Brady throw, it's like he's throwing, it's like Sunday in his backyard or something. Yeah. That's what the game became for me because of those mechanical adjustments. It just changed everything. And that's what you talked about, my short time in the minors. Well, it's because of that. I mean, that coach got me on track, maximized my potential, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's huge, man, to step in there, maybe one of those bonus babies wrote that check for $5,000 for the Braves to pay you. And
Braves made money on it.
They did. Yeah, they did.
You know this because you played overseas like I played overseas. And so they signed me for $5,000. And when Japan came calling, well, they got to buy me out. And then I played in the big leagues for them. So the Braves, I was probably like the greatest rate of return in professional history.
In history. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But even more than that, Trey, man, that coach that pulled you on the side, he didn't care that you were signed as a senior for $5,000. He was trying to do his best to help as many youngsters as possible make it to the big leagues. So he helped you make that adjustment. You already had the mental side of things coming from LSU and just growing and having that will to want to win and want to do well. He noticed some mechanical issues that were physical, helped you with that. And like you said, your career took off. You skated through the minor leagues over the next, 2 years, if you want to say that, but not quite 2 years before you got that call up to the big leagues. Were you in AAA or AA when you got called up in 2002?
So I went, so we talked about the New York Penn League. Next year I go to A-ball, and I was slated. I was so, it just continues, right?
Yeah.
I'm slated to be a bullpen guy. Well, and he's a friend of mine. One of those big money guys hurts his back. And they say, well, let's let Trey start, right? So have an unbelievable year, pitcher of the year for the league, for the organization. Next year, skip AA, go to AAA, which at that time was a big jump. I mean, a lot of guys in AAA or played with my brother. I mean, in fact, one of my teammates, Ozzie Timmons,
remember
played
that
with my
name.
brother. He's now a first base coach for the Devil Rays. And I can go on and on. I mean, these guys, these are all old guys, and I'm a 23-year-old, like, hey, but no, so yeah, go to AAA, have another good year. And we were in Norfolk, Virginia, and I had a really good year. I wasn't on the 40-man, so I kind of knew, like I said, look, I'm not on the 40-man. Yeah, I've had a great year, but they're going to have to move somebody off, right? They're going to have to move somebody off that 40-man to put me on. And they don't have a lot of money in me, so what's the point? Right?
Yeah.
Well, apparently they did it. So I'm sitting in the locker room in Norfolk, Virginia, watching the Virginia Tech LSU football game. And my manager, Freddie Gonzalez, says, hey, Haji, can I borrow you for a second? He's like, you don't mind not watching the game for a little bit? I said, oh, all right, whatever. And then, he told me the news. And I probably didn't sleep much of any for 3 days. If my heart literally beat out of my chest for 3 days.
Yeah.
And, I remember that first. I'm sure you've got the same experience. That first outing at the major league level, the reality is the lights are brighter.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you and I played at nice fields. I mean, AAA is no slouch.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, it's like everything's bigger, brighter, louder, better. I mean, it is the big leagues.
Yeah, that's neat, man, to fly through it. Being that you weren't on the 40-man roster, you weren't even thinking about getting called up despite having a year. I didn't fly through the minor leagues, but when I got called up, I was in AAA, International League, same league you were in. I was not on the 40-man roster either. But I sensed things unfolding the way you sensed things unfolding for you back in college, for us when we were at LSU making that run to the College World Series. I had a feeling, but I wasn't sure because I wasn't on the 40-man, number one. And number two, I was a 43rd round draft pick who, similar to you, was in the bullpen to start. Then, hey, let's experiment with this guy as a starter and see what happens. And the rest was history. So you said the lights are brighter. Again, for me, I slept, but I was still like in awe that I got that. I was froze. Like, it's just like I froze in time and didn't know it was real. But for you, man, you stepping on the field now in Atlanta, legendary manager, legendary pitching coach, legendary pitching staff. Speak on sharing that locker room, sharing that bullpen, sharing that mound with the likes of Maddox, Glavine, Smokes, so on and so forth, man. Talk about that experience. You step on the field as a big leaguer, the bright lights, the baseballs are wound a little bit tighter. The only thing is they're not bones. They're not Mike Bonio with the way they rubbed up the baseball, so the balls are always slick. But speak on stepping onto that field, having Leo Mazzoni as a pitching coach, having Bobby Cox as a manager, and then having a pitching staff that you had that you were able to join. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I was with the Braves in the heyday, to get called up, you're one of, maybe two or three guys that get called up, and most of the team at the time, it's like a country club, man. These dudes have been here for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. They're all, like you said, you got Hall of Famers left and right. And so it's what you should do as a rookie. You shut your mouth, you sit in your locker, and you earn your place, right?
Not these days.
Yeah. But so that's what I did. I respected the guys. I respected the program. And I just sat there and tried to earn some respect and earn some time. and quite frankly, try to hide so I can get sit down. So, it's funny when I got called up, one of my friends, one of my roommates, one of my good friends. So when I made the squad the next year out of spring training, even though I had earned it, his name was on the key box, not mine.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow, like, even though I had done everything like literally you could possibly do as a human being, I was still I was never send me to AAA, but no, Chipper Jones, I mean, you talk Chipper Jones, I mean, these guys are unbelievable athletes, unbelievable humans, really good people. Greg Maddux, so I mean, I played with Greg Maddux. I was kind of known, I guess, in a way. I was kind of the poor man, Greg Maddux. Because, look, I didn't throw hard. I had to locate. I had to change pitches, change speeds, locations. And so I pitched very similar, in that regard to what Maddux would do. So thankfully, he took me under his wing and he gave me a lot of advice, a lot of help. He took me to dinner. We had, we had some drinks together. Just great guys like Tom Glavine. When I got called up, and Tom Glavine was kind of quiet, kind of to himself. But I remember when I got called up, he said, man, welcome to the big leagues. I actually expect you to be here earlier. And I was thinking, how in the hell do you, how do you know me? How do you know me? Like, and they knew of me. They I guess, they saw me in spring training. I had a good spring training and they just kind of, it just goes to show that, a lot of times you can't judge a book by its cover. Tom, again, very reserved, quiet, but knew exactly who I was. But no, just, guys in the bullpen, John Smoltz, as nice of a guy as you can be. One of the most athletic people I've ever been around in my life.
I've heard.
Unbelievable. And I was also, I was also welcomed to the big leagues, if you want to call it that. Was given, kind of the rite of passage a few times to make sure that I understood my position, which I did. But no, it was a great experience. A lot of great guys, very helpful, great organization, obviously very successful.
Yeah, I've heard that story, from Michael Bourne. Obviously, he didn't play with Maddux and Glavine and Smoltz, but he was there while Chipper was on his way out during that retirement time. But he talked about the culture. And obviously, you were with the Braves in 2002 and 2003, so that culture had been around probably since the early 90s when you saw that they go from worst to first back in those days. That culture was established, so you got to reap the benefits of that. And like you said, guys kept you in line because you were that rookie. But you also understood, maybe just naturally understood that because you went to LSU, although you came in as an upperclassman, you saw how we had to put in our work and pay our dues to climb up to having that authority, to be that leadership type, that leader, to have some type of authority, or however you want to shape it up. So talk about that. You said Maddux took you under his wing, helped you with your pitches, helped you manipulate the ball a little bit. Did he give you some Vaseline to put in your back pocket? Or,
No. No. Unfortunately, I was pretty boring in that regard. In fact, I look back at my career and think most of the people in the clubhouse must have been like, God, like, why is he not doing anything? No, but I remember one of the things I struggled with, so I was not a flamethrower, but I had to throw inside to keep people honest. And, Leo Mazzoni had basically told me, like, hey, you got to throw inside, but don't make a mistake inside.
No.
So, and it kind of made me fearful, of making that mistake. And you and I both know that when you're doing anything with a hint of fear to it, you're not going to do it as well.
Exactly.
And so I didn't pitch well inside. And, and Maddux, on top of that, Maddux was really good with a backdoor sinker right? So he'd start the sinker at a left-handed batter and then work back to the plate. And I had a sinker. So anyway, so I'm talking to Maddox one day and I said, look, hey, how do you do that? Like, how do you throw that pitch? And he goes, well, you have a sinker, right? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, grab your sinker. And he said, he points at that foul pole and he says, throw your sinker at that foul pole. So I threw my sinker at the foul pole. And then he grabbed another ball and he said, throw it at that foul pole. So I threw it at that foul pole. And he goes, that's how you do it.
Like that.
But it was, but what's funny though is before, with Leo Mazzoni kind of telling me, hey, don't make a mistake there. Yeah. That was blocking my ability to do what I was able to do. And then when Maddox explained it, which again, that's pretty simple, Trey.
Yeah.
But it unlocked and it made me realize how easy it was. And not only that, but it allowed me to trust it because Maddox was an expert at it. So those things. Maddox also taught me about switch hitters. So switch hitters in general don't hit sinkers and changeups. If you think about it, it makes sense because as a switch hitter, you spend half your time on the right side, half your time on the other side, and you don't get to work your full. So like as a right-hander, I work on pulling and going the other way for twice the amount of time, right? And going the other way, going the opposite way, is a much harder skill than it is pulling. Most people naturally pull. And so when he taught me that, I was like, ooh, okay. So and there was only one guy. Yeah, there was only one guy that I think debunked that rule, and he had the guy's name. He said so and so blah. He had like a little saying for it. But Maddox, it's funny. Again, you and I teaching young kids when we would do pitcher fielding practice. Maddox, keep in mind, Maddox is 12, 13 years in. He's making $1 million a win. He's a lock for the Hall of Fame, right? Yes. He got everything you could ever want. And when we would do pitcher fielding practice, he took it as serious as you could be. And in fact, one day when and I did too, because I knew I needed every out I could get. Right?
Of course.
And so I'm covering first base, and he stops me and says, hey, next time you do it this way. And here's why. So it just goes to show you the way he handled his own career, and the way he handled being a mentor, and an elder in the Braves organization. So, I can't thank him enough for going out of his way to feed me steak dinners.
For sure. You got to appreciate that. A guy of his status at the time, he was already a Hall of Famer when you look back at it, and probably pitched for another 8 to 10 years after that. He is giving that knowledge to you when he doesn't really have to. No. And he's making sure you're doing it right and understanding why you're doing it. Not everybody gets that opportunity that goes to the big leagues. And to have a guy like that share those things with you, and to have some other guys like the Smoltz, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, a few other guys take you through that, man, it makes you feel that much more comfortable and accepting of being part of that team. So we're going to go to this. Who, out of those guys, or was it somebody totally, who bought your first suit?
Ooh, I think that was.
And forget now.
No, gosh. I'm drawing a blank on him. Right in it, Russ Ortiz.
Okay, yeah, he was a starter too.
Yes, and I could see his face. This is how I am, Youman. I've got a good memory, but sometimes names slip me, and I could see his face, and I was going, I know it's a Spanish last name, but Russ Ortiz, what a great guy. The year before, I think he pitched in the World Series.
Yeah, he wasn't too shabby himself.
No, and a great dude. Went out his way, got me and Horacio Ramirez, another rookie with me. Got us custom suits, which I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. And Vinny Castilla, another guy, Vinny Castilla, bought us a suit when we were in New York, so just great dudes, Let me share this story. This is kind of cool. So my first major league outing was against the New York Mets. I come in relief in a blowout. The Braves are getting beat by like 6 runs. And so I come in, run out of the bullpen, and I'm sure you remember your first outing, but so I'm run out of the bullpen and I'm thinking, don't fall, right? my mom, so believe it or not, Shane, my mom says, you were ghost white. she thought I was going to pass out. She was like, oh my God. And I couldn't feel my arm, so I'm on the mound pitching and I literally cannot feel my arm. I'm just trying to like throw a strike. But anyway, so I get 3 outs. We go to bat, and we end up like we get a rally going, and we end up like taking the lead. And I've got a bat, like because of this. So I'm sitting next to Maddox, and Maddox goes, "Hey, you're gonna hit, like, do you have any?" I was like, "No, nothing."
Nothing.
So Greg Maddox goes and gets his hat, his helmet, his gloves, and his bat. And I'm facing Ramon Hernandez, who was a bullpen guy with a heavy sinker. But he said, swing at the first pitch. So I swing at the first pitch.
Maddox told you swing at the first pitch?
Yeah. He said, he's going to throw you a strike. Swing at the first pitch. So I get up there. And look, I hadn't hit since, I hit in AAA, but I mean, really hit since like junior year of high school. And I hit the first pitch. And I break Maddox's bat, but I hit it foul, but I put so much spin on it, the ball kicks fair. So I kind of looked stupid and then run the first, which isn't too abnormal if you know me.
Yeah.
But I didn't keep Maddox's bat. Like, he gave me his bat. I didn't keep it. What an idiot.
Yeah.
But the other thing on that story is the losing pitcher for the Mets that day was Scott Strickland.
I know Strickland.
Yeah. So Scott Strickland went to Klein Oak High School, where I went to high school. How about that?
That's crazy. It's a small world. So 2 guys from the same high school playing in the same big league game. Yep. That's crazy. I know Strick. I played with him in AAA. He came over to the Pirates for a little bit. Cool dude, man. Real cool dude, man. That's crazy. Maddox really took care of you, man. Did he have anything to say about the bat? You broke it. Did he say anything about it?
He didn't say anything. But, he gave us, I think it was his 3,000th win or something. I can't remember what it was that,
300 win or a strikeout or something. Yeah. We got 3,000 wins, T-Hodge.
But he gave us, he all signed like ticket stubs and gave them to us. I mean, the guy went out of his way to do anything and everything for us. He was just cool. Good dude.
Yeah, and that's a great experience to have. Obviously, you talk about the on-field stuff, but, the game is won and lost, and a lot of things happen in your development off the field. So to have somebody like that take care of you behind the scenes, it helps you a lot. It gives you that extra confidence. You don't feel like you're on that island by yourself because you are a young player and things like that. So you make the team in 2003, right? So you're back with those guys. How does that go for you? And then shortly after that, or leading into that next year, you get sold to Japan. But talk about the 07 season coming in and the expectations you have for yourself, as well as the team expectations that they have for you.
Yeah, so my rookie year, made the team out of spring training. Like I said, pitched unbelievably well. Basically made the team. This is no fluff. I made the team because the guy that was going to be the long reliever said, I'd rather go to AAA than be a starter in AAA than be the long reliever in AAA. Be the long reliever in the big leagues.
Where they do that at?
No, I'm talking the guy that was earmarked to be the long reliever.
Yes.
Said, hey, I would rather go to AAA and be a starter than make the big leagues. But it ended up being a good decision for him. It worked out for him. Okay. And thankfully he did it. Even though I had outpitched everyone, I think I gave up like 1 run in spring training. They were still going to sit. Like I told you, the key box. My other friend was going to make the team as the long reliever. so I had 2 people. One guy had to have basically have the yips in a way.
Yeah.
And another guy had to basically tell him, no, I'd rather go to AAA. for me to make the team, even though I, essentially earned it.
Pitch well enough.
Yeah, statistically earned it. But no, so I make the team. I'm the long reliever. Like I told them, I said, I'll be the janitor if you need me to be the janitor.
Yeah.
But we had a veteran bullpen. We had a lot of guys like 8-9 years in, older guys, and they started dropping like flies early on. And so I went from being long reliever, really the first month I didn't pitch a whole bunch. But after that first month, when those older guys started having some injuries, they didn't really have anybody else, right? So now I get the chance to be the sixth inning guy or the right-handed guy or whatever, right? And I'm pitching well. And because we got injuries and I'm pitching well, I start pitching more and more and more and more. And it's kind of like back at LSU where I was hot and they're coming up and saying, hey, you keep going. I said, yeah, I keep going. Well, at one point, me and Julian Taveras, who's like the rubber arm guy.
Yeah, he is.
are number one and number two in the NL in innings. And so I end up developing trigger finger on my index finger. At the time, we didn't know what it was, but I knew there was an issue. I had an issue. And so at that point, about halfway through the year, I'm starting to have some aches, some tenderness, some soreness in my wrist and forearm. My ERA is going up. I'm not the same guy. You can see there's something not the same. But I go on the DL for a little bit, come off. Again, not the same guy. Go into the off season. Worked harder than I had ever worked before because I wanted to stay there. I mean, you know what that's like. You want to stay there,
of course.
And go to throw again the next year, and I can feel my arm. Now, let me back up. I had gone to Dr. James Andrews, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, I don't see what the problem is." So I'm thinking, well, apparently there's not a problem. I'm just going to bulldog through this.
Yeah.
And but yeah, next year, got the problem, go through spring training. Actually had a really good spring training. Don't know how in the hell I did it. But my arm is not feeling good. They sent me to AAA. About halfway through the first half of AAA, I request to see some doctors. I'm seeing doctors on my own. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on because there's something wrong. But anyway, kept pitching, pitched well enough to go to Japan. Thank God. I mean, what a great opportunity. I'm sure you're probably a lot like me in the fact that when else would I have gone to Japan? It's not cheap, and it's probably not on my bucket list. But what a great opportunity! What a great experience! I got to see their culture and play in their baseball league and make a lot of money.
Of course.
Yeah. So what a great opportunity, and it's a blessing, really. I mean, considering my circumstances, I was very fortunate. But then after Japan, come back at that point, and I pitched decent in Japan. I mean, keep in mind, I need surgery. I'm pitching with something that requires surgery. And I pitched like with a 4.3 in Japan. But I come back and I go to spring training with the Twins. I'm at this point, I'm throwing like 80 miles per hour. I got scar tissue laid down on my finger. I basically have pain from like my neck all the way to my wrist. Just miserable. But again, nobody's telling me what's wrong. I mean, I'm seeing doctors on my own, seeing neurologists. I'm seeing orthopedics. I'm seeing voodoo doctors. I'm seeing anybody and everybody.
The whole nine.
Yeah. So finally, I'm out of baseball, and I call up the Braves doctors and say, "Look, I'm still having this issue. I don't know what the heck it is, but I want to I just want somebody at this point, I just want somebody to tell me what's wrong. I don't care if it ever gets fixed. I just want them to say, hey, this is the problem." And so I see a hand specialist in Atlanta who's one of the top in the world. And after about 6 months and 2 cortisone injections, he says, "I feel pretty confident you have trigger finger." And so the surgery is like 30 minutes. There's no biomechanical issues with the surgery. It's a very, relatively speaking, non-invasive surgery. And technically, I'm normal again. The problem is I spent 2 years pitching with the injury. And so the mechanical changes, the wear and tear, the things, so after I get the surgery and I rehab myself back, and then you and I run into each other in the
Atlantic
Lancaster.
Yep.
I just wasn't the same guy. I just could not get to that same level I was before. I was competitive. I was able to get some outs, but I wasn't the same guy that made the big leagues in 2003.
That's crazy.
So now I'm here.
That's crazy. Yeah, well,
I'm wearing jorts. Right?
Yeah, man. Hey, but the experience and having that opportunity, like you said earlier, you wouldn't trade it for the world, no matter how much money was involved. But you were fortunate enough to make some decent money in the big leagues, but make even better money in Japan. What's trigger finger, man?
So basically, on your hand, you've got a tendon that runs the length of your finger. And when you bend your finger, that tendon gets pulled to make your finger bend.
Yeah.
And so what happened to me is, I went from being a starter to being one of the most highly used relievers in all of Major League Baseball. So in a way, and the veterans in the bullpen were like, dude, you couldn't have stayed healthy. It was impossible.
Yeah.
The amount of innings I was pitching, which I was fine with. I was hot. Give me the damn ball.
Of course.
I'm just happy to be there. But so what happened is right about here, that area of my hand, for whatever reason, just got irritated. And as it got irritated, it starts to lay down scar tissue to impede the movement. This movement is causing irritation. And so it just lays down scar tissue. But the problem is, like in the off season, as that scar tissue is laid down, or even the scar tissue that is laid down, you having surgery, you understand this, that it has time to kind of harden.
Yeah.
It firms up. And so then when I come back in the off season, now I've got a more restrictive scar tissue, and eventually it lays down enough where it basically just, it kind of prevents a lot of movement. And like literally my velocity went down to 80 miles per hour. But the surgery is literally, they slice, it's about an inch slice. He went in there and basically cleaned off the scar tissue. He cut a strap. There was like a basically just a little band holding the tendon in place. He cut that strap, which he said is unnecessary. You don't even need it. And me cutting it's not hurting anything. And you're done. I mean, now, obviously I had to rehab. I did a lot of, I know it's going to sound really, so you and I being baseball players, and, you and I probably know a lot of football players.
Yeah.
So I'm telling a former NFL player, who's like had his knee blown out. I'm saying, I had to rehab my finger. But I did, I had to do a lot of finger type stuff to get back. But, man, at that point, the damage had been done. Pitching 2 years with an injury that requires surgery, it's kind of hard to overcome that. I can still throw. You saw me throw in Lancaster. I throw decent still, but there's a difference between pitching at the major league level, and pitching at a
independent.
High. Yeah, a little different.
I got you. I definitely understand that, man. I remember you going through that injury and really not knowing what it was, and then finally figuring things out. But despite all of that, man, you had a great career in the game of baseball. As we talked about before, you had your older brother, that was able to pretty much give you that blueprint because you watched him do it at the major league level, then going to Japan as well. You did the same thing. It prepared you for life now, to be a father, to be a husband, to have a career outside of the game of baseball. You had to be a people person, had to be able to get along with people playing the game of baseball, which you're doing now. When you're talking about investments and insurance and things of that nature, you have to be a people person in that field as well. So all the things that you went through, all the things that you've been able to accomplish and do as a ball player has shaped you into the man that you are today, with the tutelage of like your family, coaches, your brother, your wife, your kids, everybody that's been that village for you to help grow and become the man that you are. You have to give credit to everybody that's in your corner for that. But Trey, man, before we shut this thing down, man, I always like to end with about 5 questions that I'll ask. Short questions, short answers. Right. Try to have a little fun with it. I'm a freestyle today. Some of the questions I've asked before to other guests, but I'm a freestyle on a few and see where we go with this. But okay, we're gonna start it out, man. With we talked about Greg Maddux. Do you have any funny Greg Maddux stories or incidents that you've been a part of or witnessed? Share if you can share one of those with us.
How censored is this show?
We good, man. We good. Like all I gotta do is check the box and say if it's we got adult links involved or whatever.
2 quick stories.
All right.
So I'm in the shower, soap lathered up, eyes closed, and I feel something warm running down my leg. Yeah, you know where I'm going. So I finally get all the soap out of my hair. Like I just had like an afro of soap, It takes like 2 minutes to get it all out.
Yeah.
And I look over and he's laughing as he's urinating on my leg. And what was so funny though is I looked at him and thought, that's Greg Maddux. That's cool.
What am I going to say about that? What am I going to tell you?
I literally looked at him like, dude, you're Greg Maddux. That's awesome. Like, are you kidding me? And I just went back to showering. So I think at that point they realized, like, this dude gets it,
Yeah.
Because I think, obviously you act differently, then you're in for a lot more than that.
For sure.
The other thing he would do is towel roulette. What I called it towel roulette. I don't know if he had an official name for it.
Yeah.
But he would come in after batting practice and take a towel shower. So get a dry towel.
Yeah.
Just wipe himself off everywhere. And then he would fold that towel and reinsert it. He's like this stuff. So now when somebody goes to shower, they grab Maddox's post-batting practice shower.
Hey, he could have played at LSU, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, what a good dude.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah. That's classic. But hey, man, you it's 162 games in 180 days. I mean, I'm not saying you need to do that, but you got to be creative and keep things fun.
You're right. No,
you know what I'm saying? So
he was good. I think he peed on Chipper Jones too.
He didn't care.
So there you go.
What Chipper gonna say?
No.
None of that. So that was drastic. I probably should have saved that one for the last question because we kicked it off. But we're gonna tone it down just a tad bit with this here. So right. Man, talk about, and you have 2 sons now, although they may not have access to it, but what did you enjoy more, the baseball card or when you saw yourself on a video game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think probably the video game, and I still have the video game that I'm on. I can't play it because it's on like a Sega or something. Yeah. But I did buy it because I was like, that's really cool. Even though my stats are terrible and I'm like good for like 1 pitch, I am on the game. And, you and I grew up playing video games kind of in that era when that stuff became popular. But no, I'd probably say the video game just because that's really unique, Yeah. We got cards as on the teams, even though you didn't get like maybe a Topps card, you got your team cards.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my answer.
For sure. That's what's up, man. Everybody's a little different. I like the card. It's give and take, but that's always cool to hear about that. If which one players like more than anything, especially if guys with kids and especially guys with sons tend to lean towards the video game just because that's kind of that bonding type situation and stuff like that. But leading up to this, man, did you have any pregame superstitions or pregame rituals, like whatever, man, a certain food you had to eat or certain music, like you had to have your music or whatever it may be? What's some of the things you had to do or have leading up to game time?
Yeah, so I was a real rebel in the fact that the days that I started, I went and got a Starbucks iced coffee. So that was, I got caffeinated up.
Yeah.
I know, right? Looking back, you and I, looking back at what some of the other people were doing, I'm like, oh man, I wasn't really,
Believe me,
really playing the same level. But I would do that. And, I had kind of my normal, just normal routine of things. That I would make sure I got to the park at a certain time. I would do a crossword puzzle. And I would eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a banana, right? So before the game, because you needed to eat something, right? But not too much.
Yeah.
And then obviously, because I drank my Starbucks iced coffee, I needed to make sure I hydrated really well because I didn't want to be dehydrated as I was pitching that day.
Of course.
But other than that, I didn't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. I had to have the PB&J for me, music, and then probably a Red Bull. But, you have people combining Sudafed and Excedrin and all this other extra stuff to get themselves, going before the game. I don't even want to get into details, but we saw some shit back, especially in the training room. But, like we said, 162 games in 180 days. Some guys needed that, depending on if they partied hard, they went hard after the game and had to come back the next day and produce. So I got two more for you, Trey, man. I got two more for you, and we'll wrap it up. But home or away? You enjoy playing at home or on the road?
Easy question. Love playing away. I love being the underdog. I kind of feel like I've always been the underdog. It just brings pleasure to my heart to walk into someone else's place and defeat them. Yeah. So no question.
Yeah, I'm the same. I love playing on the road for that and other reasons when I was a single man. But, we're not going to jump into that either. But you know how it is, man. But I don't want to get in trouble for that comment. So, but last one, man. Last one, since we're having a little fun out. What's the biggest lesson you can take from being a baseball player, whether it be, your high school years, your college years, or your years as a pro? What's one of the biggest lessons you're able to take from being a baseball player?
You talk about something that you still carry with you to this day that Skip taught you. And one of the things Skip taught us at LSU was be an owner and don't be a renter.
Yes.
And that statement is so powerful, not only in sports, but in life. Yes. The way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, the way you prepare for your craft, whatever it may be, whether it's sports or, like me now, doing what I do. It's so powerful. It's so simple, but it's so true. And if you can have that responsibility, an owner just right. I mean, a renter, you don't care what the outcome is. You're just there for a short period of time and it doesn't matter. But an owner, it's a representation of who you are and what you believe in. And so I think if you carry that attitude in life, then I think it would help you make some smarter decisions as you go on in life.
That's definitely a classic analogy that Skip always would use for that to stick with you. Be an owner, not a renter. Trey Hodges done dropped the knowledge for you and explain to you what that means. And that's one of the biggest things he's able to take on into his everyday life, his family life, his career, so on and so forth, that he learned some gems from Skip Bertman back in college in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we all pick up similar things as we go. And even as a ball player, we don't disregard certain things that we hear or may encounter just because we have that one-track mind of playing a particular sport and excelling. We learn how to take those things that we learn or would get from Skip at practice or in a squad room during those meetings and able to apply it to our lives off the field. That's important as athletes. We got to be able to learn things, excel on the field, be your best on the field, but be able to take some of those things and bring it to our lives off the field. Trey, man, I definitely appreciate you jumping on the podcast. You're the first pitcher. Besides myself, I'm the host, so I can't really dive into too much about my career, but you're the first pitcher to be on the League Talk podcast, man. So we made some history today. And like I said, I appreciate you hopping on, man. Say hello to the wifey, Bree, my new Iberian native.
Will do.
Hope your sons are healthy. Hope you guys are healthy and safe, man, and continued success, bro. Much love, man. This is the League Talk podcast, and we're out of here, man.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it.
For sure.